Lock, load, and prepare to breach, as game developer DICE will see you running and gunning your way through its latest entry in the Battlefield series. Battlefield 4 presents players with some really well-presented story, excellent gameplay, and some solid, albeit a little bit buggy multiplayer experience. But how well does DICE's latest modern war FPS hold up in an already saturated market? Can it really separate itself from the pack and claim King of the Hill? Grab some Doritos, kick back, and relax as we dive into Battlefield 4 and find out.
Pack. Wrecker, you might not make it. Many of your friends won't. But this is it. This is the shot we've got.
The Battlefield series has always done a fairly solid job of presenting an engaging story and gameplay, and for those familiar with the series, you won't be disappointed. The game wastes no time at throwing you right into the middle of the story, and to be honest, it leaves you with more questions than answers, but this is a great tactic to create a sense of immersion, and it does it really well. Being an avid story-driven player, it was great to have so much emphasis placed on story right out of the gate. I was also thrilled with the push for character-driven story and the attempts at trying to attach player to characters. It was really an interesting thing to do, although to be honest, it did fall flat a few times. Don't get me wrong, the game did a great job at attaching me to some of the characters, but then it would take some abrupt turns in story, leaving me feel cheated about what happened to a particular character. It made the story feel a little disjointed at times, but these were few and far between, and overall the story was really well told. Storytelling methods were the usual fare, with a mix of in-game and pre-rendered graphics, character dialogue, and comms chatter. All of these were solid, and again added to the immersion of the experience. Gameplay is where Battlefield really excels. I'd mentioned earlier that I'm a huge fan of story-driven games, and Battlefield 4's gameplay helped set the stage for the story immersion. Everything from particle effects to explosions, sounds, visuals, details, all these things work together to help paint an amazing backdrop for the story to be told in. It's one thing to have a character tell you how desperate the situation is, and it's an entirely different thing to then play through that level and it leave you feeling like it's a desperate situation. Time and time again, as I was moving through levels of the game, be it in a country in the chaos of a civil war or an underground prison, the gameplay, visuals, and sound help sell the idea. It is hands down my favorite aspect of the game. This, coupled with the sheer scale of the environments, made for a lot of fun as I ran, drove, flew, and even boated across the world. That's right, along with the vastness of the game environments comes the signature vehicle options that we are so accustomed to in the Battlefield series. In Battlefield 4, DICE has really pushed to make vehicles feel real while making them easier to control and maneuver. And to be honest, this was one of my biggest criticisms of Battlefield 3. Controls and functionality have been tightened up, allowing for greater control without losing the authentic feel of the vehicle. It was a great improvement over its predecessors. It made those moments when you did come across a vehicle exciting instead of frustrating. In regards to game controls, Battlefield 4 hasn't really done anything revolutionary, but what it does well. The default keyboard and mouse controls are tight, work well, and make sense when your hands lay on the device. There is an optional controller support, but as a PC gamer who's accustomed to the mouse and keyboard setup, I ignored them completely, like that annoying call from the sales rep trying to sell me a slap chop. If it ain't broke, don't fix it seems to be the motto that DICE follows, and it works. A feature that has caused a lot of angst among PC gamers is the web-based battle log. I had very little experience with it for Battlefield 3, but I've now spent several hours with it in Battlefield 4, and have to say that it's probably my least favorite feature of the game. Let me be clear. Conceptually, I love the idea. The battle log allows constant access to all of your stats, loadouts, leaderboards, forums, etc. Pretty much everything you could ever need for information about Battlefield 4, minus the kitchen sink. The problem I have with the system is that the game is way too dependent on it for everything. Even launching the campaign or managing a multiplayer game requires the battle log. With the constant jumping in and out of game, to do these things, it feels cumbersome, slow, and downright backwards. Not to mention that in the case of a multiplayer game, if you are dropped from a server due to it closing before you even finish loading the game, it quite literally means that you have to completely restart the game client to play another map. Again, If we lived in a perfect world where dinosaurs and unicorns lived in peace, and we all had top-end gaming rigs and fiber-optic internet connections and completely stable, dedicated servers, and we could plug into the Matrix, this system would be amazing. Sadly, however, unicorns hate dinosaurs, we don't have awesome gaming rigs, and the Matrix is controlled by the machines. I love the idea of a battle log, but it just is too big an idea for its proverbial britches. Moving off of that soapbox, let's talk about multiplayer. Frankly, multiplayer is awesome. Let me be clear though, it's not perfect, but it is awesome. The scale, customizable loadouts, the vehicles, the maps, and the gameplay types all come together to create a very fun multiplayer experience. Now, I didn't get a lot of time in multiplayer, but when I did play, it was really fun. Tough, but fun. Perhaps it's just been a while since I've played competitive multiplayer, or it may be time that I admit that I'm just getting old in gamer years, but I died a lot. And I mean a whole lot. But that being said, it was still an incredibly fun gameplay experience, and is different enough from other FPS experiences that it felt refreshing to jump into a multiplayer game. Now, multiplayer is not without its bugs. For one, it can be painfully frustrating to get connected to servers until you've opened up about a half a cajillion ports on your router necessary to play. There were some bugs at launch in multiplayer that DICE still needs to squash, and quite often you can get dropped from servers with little to no explanation. Now, the nice thing is that with time and a big can of raid, most of this will hopefully be patched. In fact, at the time of this review, DICE had mentioned that they were aware of and are in the process of building a patch to address a lot of the above-mentioned issues. So if multiplayer is a big deal for you, I would say that the gameplay experience is awesome, but be prepared for a little work to get into the awesome gameplay experience. Now, at the end of the day, the kill-death ratio definitely finds Battlefield a winner, both in multiplayer and single-player. DICE has built a solid game. If you're looking for an FPS with great gameplay, large-scale battles, and solid story, I would recommend picking up a copy of Battlefield 4, which is available at GamingDragons.com. I'm Matt, and thanks for watching.